All right, welcome everyone to Erasing Shame. We are having a special episode, and my guest co-host, I should say. My name is DJ Chuang, and Erasing Shame is a place where we have honest talk for healthy living, and we're in season 4. And this season, we are taking a journey around the world, a journey of healing around the world. And tonight, we have a special episode with David Dicken, who is a crisis counselor, and he's been on 2 previous episodes of Erasing Shame. And he will be chatting with Tyesa Harvey about the topic of human sex trafficking. So I'm going to hand the mic over to David Dicken, and he'll take it away.
Thank you, DJ. Thank you for producing the show and putting together all the technical pieces. We really appreciate it. Tyesa, thank you for making this happen. I know you've got kids in the other room, so if we hear them, that'll be just fine. Oh, Tyesa, let's just jump right in and get started.
Okay.
How did you get lured into the life? Tell us how you got lured in, how long, and kind of how you got out.
I started off with as a homeless teen at the age of 14. I was living with my boyfriend, who was about 10 years my senior, and he was taking care of me. He went to jail, and when he went to jail, I met my first trafficker at an underground strip club.
So how long were you in the life?
I was in the life altogether from age 14 until I was 30 years old, so 16 years altogether.
So when you were in the life, when did you come to a place where you're like, I want out?
There were times throughout my whole experience where I actually wanted out, but I didn't necessarily have the resources that I need. And there's so many different intersectionalities that deal with women, me being a woman of color, me being, as they call them, a lady of leisure or woman of the night, streetwalker, that dealt with how law enforcement or people that are supposed to help you dealt with me, to where I didn't feel like I was worth being helped.
So what did the pimps do to keep you in? What did you feel? You felt trapped? You felt like there weren't resources to get out?
It wasn't necessarily just what the pimps did to keep me in. It was sort of what society, how society played a role in keeping me in, dealing with family trauma, dealing with being told I wasn't worth being saved. I had so many different places telling me that I wasn't worth being saved. The police told me I wasn't worth being saved. The judges told me I wasn't worth being saved. Family members didn't feel the need to reach out and help me. Eventually, I did come to a place where I felt like I needed to help myself, but being told by so many different sources outside of your pimp who says nobody's ever going to save you from me, and having that solidified by society is what kept me, speaking from my lived experience, kept me inside that lifestyle for so long.
Talk about generational trauma.
Intergenerational trauma. Science is doing this thing called epigenetics, where they deal with epigenetics, and they tell how when a woman is pregnant with a child, her child that she's pregnant with, if she's female, already has developed so many eggs for when she's going to have children. So the trauma that my great-great-great-grandmother dealt with, I already began to deal with when my great-grandmother was pregnant with my grandmother, because my mother's eggs was inside her. And I think it's true dealing with my family, because my grandmother was in the life. My grandfather was in the life. This is something that's generational for me. It didn't just start with me. This wasn't a way of life for just me. And I'm where it stops. I'm not where it started.
Right. So that's why you like to share your story.
I share my story because I know that somewhere in the world there's a 13-year-old girl that feels like no one loves her and no one cares for her.
Okay.
And I just want that 13-year-old girl to know there's somebody that's went through what you're going through, and there is a way out, and there is help, and that somebody does love you, even if you don't believe so and the world's not showing you so.
Right. So you say 13-year-old girl. What age are traffickers looking for right now?
Um, I I know that a lot of experts say that the age that traffickers look for is 14 years old. That's not necessarily true. Buyers look for girls that age group. Buyers are interested in women who are younger. As far as I know, for traffickers do start with women who are 18 years old. Now, they do have some out there who do take on girls who are minors because they sell. But from what I know in my personal experience, most of them do want the fresh 18-year-old girls, not necessarily 14 and 15, but buyers are interested in 13, 14, and 15-year-old girls, sometimes younger.
So let's talk about buyers. So buyers are creating the demand.
Yes.
What do you have to say?
Traffic-
So we're live on Facebook right now, and there's buyers. There's potential buyers watching right now.
Buyers reap the buyers, they reap the least consequences. I even said in a conference before and heard a DA say before, oh yeah, we used to tell them, we'll charge you $500, or you could pay us $500 and not go to jail, or we'll take you to jail and tell your wife. And then the buyer gets to go home. Meanwhile, myself, the victim, the supposed to be victim, I go sit in jail and I have to get bailed out. The trafficker, he goes to jail if he gets caught, if I testify against him. And my trafficker, I'm not going to say he didn't do some pretty gruesome things to me, but I've had some buyers that have done even worse to me, and they don't reap any consequences. I've had the police tell me after a buyer beat me up before, give him his money back, and then we'll have him give you your ID. Buyers don't have any consequences. And if there wasn't no demand, there wouldn't be much of a supply. You can't sell anything that no one's buying.
That's right. So when the average person thinks of human trafficking, they think of prostitution at a sporting event, Las Vegas, street corners. What about pornography?
Pornography is another form of human trafficking. There's plenty of trafficking going on within the pornography world. They have the guys don't call themselves pimps there, they call themselves agents. And there are situations where agents go in and they talk to the producers with girls and they say, hey, you know what, she's not, don't tell her how much she's getting paid. Give her 100 and give me the rest of the money. And sometimes the girls don't see any of the money, just like they would be doing out on the streets. So it does go further.
Right. So that's that same scenario where there's a demand.
Yes.
Right.
Well, there's always going to be a demand for porn. Look at Pornhub. They now anyone if I was in a relationship with a guy and decided to have sex with him and he recorded it, he could just easily upload it to Pornhub without my permission. And it would take forever for me to get it off.
Right. So tell us about when you first got out. What was that like? What were you experiencing right when you first got out?
For the first year out of the life, I was homeless. My children and I, we lived in motels. We lived in a car. Oh God, we stayed at different people's houses. Sometimes we didn't have nowhere. There were a lot of nights I was going through program. I remember going through a work program, one in which I'm like really grateful for. And some nights I would leave the work program and drop one of the girls off and go pull up to a train station and take my kids with me, cut on a heater, and we'll go to sleep right there in the car at the train station because that was the safest place. And to park my car and go to sleep.
And it was warm.
And it was warm. Yeah. We
Wow.
lived in the car for a year. We stayed in the car. I had place after place telling me, no, we can't house you. Yeah, we went through a lot for the first year.
And so you talked about your criminal history, being arrested. It's my understanding you've been arrested over 100 times, so now you're considered by the court system a career criminal.
I am, although most of my cases, I do have a few felony cases that are all related to my trafficking experience. But in addition to that, I do have mostly misdemeanor cases. But since I've been arrested so many times for the same thing, I am considered a career criminal. And it's hindered me even on this side of life. It's been 5 years now. And job applications, they look and they see my record and they're like, no, we're not taking a chance on you because of your record, your history.
And we're working, or you're working on possibly getting some of those convictions expunged or dismissed.
I am in the process of getting a lot of these convictions dismissed. I've had everything in Nevada. I spoke with my lawyer in Nevada, and everything in Nevada is cleared. I think the only thing that came up when he looked my name up, my lawyer looked my name up in his system, was a case that was never picked up by the DA. Currently, California, my lawyers in California, they're still working on California cases, but I was all over the place. So I still have Florida and about 40 other states. I have a lot of work to do. It's going to be a while.
Right. But there's been some progress.
But there has been progress, yes.
Right. So tell us about support. So you're out now 5 years, and you and I had a conversation, and I remember what you said, and you talked about friends in the family, in the life, I mean, and then friends today, support today. Contrast that support between the support you were getting when you were in the life and the support that you get now.
When you do different things, you have you have different experiences with people. People kind of meet you where you're at. Before, when I was in the life, a lot of my family members did not deal with me. They didn't deal with me. They didn't talk to me. The ones that did deal with me and talk to me was because of monetary benefits for themselves. And now I can say that not only am I learning to set boundaries with some of those same people, but I'm building new relationships, newfound relationships with people, and building strong friendships on this side of life.
Right. So tell us about a typical day then when you were in the life. How long did the day go on? Was there a quota?
A typical day, shoot, it depends on what city I was in. If I'm in a city where it might take anywhere between 2 and 3 hours, cities where it's like, they might take 2 or 3 hours. I'm not going to name particular cities, but if I'm in a city where it only takes a couple hours to make $1,000, my night might only be 3 hours. If I'm in a city where it takes all day to make that, my day might start off at 8:00 in the morning, and I might work a couple of different bars or internet sites from 8 to say like 1 or 2 o'clock, and take about an hour break, go get something to eat. And then I'll have to go back and catch the after work traffic. And then after that, out for the night to catch the night traffic, just to make sure my quota was always $1,000. But even sometimes if I made $1,000 at 8 in the morning, I still had to go out and get more. That mean it was just going to be a good day.
Right. So who best supported you when you were in the life? It seemed like you were getting support from friends in the life. or maybe even a pimp, or there was a word you used the other day that I didn't write down, but
I had a pimp when I was in a life, and I had other girls that worked with me, of course. Yeah.
and what about today? What are you getting good support today?
Today I have a all right support system. It's me and my
Okay.
children for the most part, but I have different mentors that I deal with, and I have some different support groups that I talk to. We call them survivor sisters. I have some that I
And let me ask you about God. Where's God in all this?
God is everything in all of this. God is what kept me. That is, when you keep asking about my support system, God is my main support system. Um, Someone prayed for me. I prayed for me, and God most definitely kept His hand on me throughout all of this. I am a true testament because I should have been dead a long time ago. He saved me. He saved me, and He created my testimony. A lot of people say, why do people go through bad things? Sometimes you have to be sacrificed to build your
Okay.
testimony in order to save someone else.
So when you were in the life, what kind of questions were you asking God?
Why
Okay.
was I put here to be used and abused? I ask God that a lot of times in a life.
And what kind of questions are you asking God now?
Why is it taking so long for me to get rich? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. The types of questions I ask today is I ask God if He could keep His hand over me, if He can help me become wiser, if He can help me become stronger, and if He can help me with humility, knowing that I don't know everything and leaving my mind open to learn.
Right. And what about society? How do you feel? How does society view you? How do you fit in when you tell your story just in an average or,
Um, I have my ups and downs with society even to this day. Um, I'm I'm more people are receptive to me now, and I had a lot of proving to do. When I first left my trafficking situation, I didn't press charges against anyone. No one ever went to jail. So, you know, a lot of people had problems with helping me. Now I feel as though society and a lot of people didn't bank on me making it this far, and now society is like, oh, she's doing it, and she keeps on going. So it's went kind of from doubt to now it's respect, and not just a respect level, um admiration, you
Now,
know.
the church, how do you feel like you fit in at church?
Church, my church family is good to me, yeah.
Okay. And tell us about pimps. I think you have relationships with pimps, a couple of pimps that got out of the lifestyle. What can you tell us about that?
um I would call them survivors too.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily call it relationships with pimps that got out of life, but we do have a rapport with one another. Sometimes I need their expertise, from their perspective, of how they feel about things. Sometimes I need the other side, the coin flip, you
Okay.
know. Yeah.
So tell us about your dreams and goals. You've been out for 5 years now. You've got two wonderful kids. And tell us about your dreams and goals.
My dreams, my short-term goal is to complete school and have a doctor's degree in sociology.
Okay.
My long-term goal is to build a have in house a reintegration house for survivors of domestic sex trafficking and even international sex trafficking specific to sex trafficking victims and helping them reintegrate back into society. A lot of us, when we come out of the life, you have to think I was 14 when I first started. I didn't get out until I was 30. That means
Right.
that I was raised in that lifestyle. So a lot of things that are common sense to most people in society aren't common sense to us. And we're learning all over again. Even to this day, I'm still learning how to do some things all over again. And I want to build a house where I can groom women coming out of that life. Well, not say groom, that's a bad terminology. I can help nurture women coming out of the life so they are successful and they don't have it can help lower the reentry rate of survivors of sex trafficking. And I want to start off with women, and eventually I hope to be able to venture off to men and even go into the jails and help with some type of rehabilitation for traffickers and buyers.
Right. So when you were in the life, you talked about how there was nowhere to go. It sounds like now you want to provide a place to go.
Yes, I want to provide a place where there's no judgment for women to be able to go. Yes.
No judgment. Yeah.
No judgment in where they are accepted and no one's using them for anything.
Okay. Well, for those of you that are watching on Facebook, we're going to give you some ways to stay connected because Tyesa's story continues. Her journey continues. She's going to be a doctor and she's going to go to a major university and she's wrapping things up with journalism and socialism and she's connected with some of her professors and she's got mentors and she's got the vision for what I'm calling the ranch. And Tyesa, when do you want to start that ranch?
I want to start the ranch as soon as possible. That's something that I was looking to have done by the end of this year.
Okay.
Hopefully it's still in the works. It's still in the light. I see it in my near future. I
Okay.
really do.
And you and I have talked about that, and you've got some good framework for that. And I've got a connection with the ranch, and they've already offered to help you get it started. So
Mhm. And I have a connection with a psychiatrist that's willing to help with the curriculum. So yeah, we're doing some beautiful things for 2020 and to help assist women coming out of the life
right.
to getting back into society successfully and healthy.
Yeah. DJ, do we have any questions? Are any questions coming up?
No questions came in, but I have one. I heard about this documentary that you were part of making. So can you say a little bit about what that documentary is about and how can people watch?
Shattered Dreams is a documentary about sex trafficking here in America. It goes into it. It's my story along with two other survivors. It talks about our lived experience throughout the life. When, in addition, it has some other power hitters. I would say in the San Diego area. Discussing their experience working with sex trafficking victims. And it's a really good documentary. You could go to palomarcollegetv.com to see the documentary, or you could visit me on my Facebook page, contact me through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, message me, and I can get you the DVD or video access to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people have DVD players these days, but we definitely have access to Facebook and Instagram. So we'll definitely add a link in the show notes for people to reach you at your website, TyesaHarvey.biz, as well as your handles on Instagram, Facebook, and anywhere else you're online. So the show notes will be at erasingshame.com. So thank you, Tyesa, for being with us and sharing a bit of your life and how you've overcome that the shame of that lifestyle, and now you're living a life of health and thriving. Really commend you on the courage, and we're proud of you and we're cheering you on. David, do you have any final words before we close?
Well, Tyesa, you're an inspiration and you're a warrior. you have anything you want to share that we didn't, maybe a question we didn't ask that you'd like to share?
No, actually, I just would like to say thank you, DJ. Thank you, David. I appreciate you guys having me on this show today. If anyone wants to know more about me, like I said, you can follow all my handles. I am getting into posting on social media, so I will be doing a lot more live videos for 2020. That is my shortest term goal. I promise the world that. If you want to know anything about me and I didn't share tonight, I am an open book.
Okay.
I will tell you anything.
Okay. We also have audio listeners because this is a podcast. So if you can just give us one of your handles, the one you use the most.
The one I use the most, Tyesa Harvey, at Tyesa Harvey for Instagram, and I guess Tyesa Harvey for Facebook. Okay.
That'll do it. Tyesa Harvey at Instagram. We did have one question just come in. So here it is. What are some tips for parents to be aware of in order to help their children be safe on social platforms because of this sex trafficking industry?
My first answer is always stay in your children's business. I always say there's a way to be in your children's business without being intrusive and being an open book to your children without being their friend. Your children should feel comfortable. Have open conversations with your children where they feel comfortable asking you about anything, even the most uncomfortable topics. They should feel most comfortable going to you before anybody else. That way, there's never nothing to hide. If they feel like if I tell my mom and dad this, they're going to be upset or they're going to look at me different, they're not going to tell you. They're going to go to your friends. Set up parental guides on social media. That way you always know what they're doing. If they're under 18, they have no business with an account that you cannot get into, and you can check their messages and check them frequently. And as I always say, there's always a way to do it without being overbearing. You can do it and still be the cool parent. That is my number one thing. Always make sure you're always in their business. Always.
Well, thank you, Tyesa. That's good wisdom. And that's a good word of exhortation to our parents to be non-judgmental.
And Tyesa makes herself available if you're a community leader and you'd like her to come share her story or some of these best practices to stay close with your children. You can reach out and she can connect with you on that as well.
Excellent. So check the show notes at erasingshape.com and you can subscribe and find us on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon, Alexa, and so on and so on. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, David. Thank you, Tyesa. Blessing to you both.